Okay, I'm back today. Today we're gonna do a little something different, right? I'm gonna do a testimony, not for myself, but someone that I knew that was near, dear, close to heart, right? And it's about somebody whose story has never been told, and some really tragic things happened to this person, right? Unfortunately, this person is no longer with us. This person died many years ago, right? But the thing is, I think this testimony is really a unique story because the cause of this person's death, right? It's not normal, right? It's not unique in the sense of many people have died from the same type of ailment, right? And this ailment is called loneliness and a broken heart, okay? So what I plan to do is do a couple videos taking you different points of this person's life. And I feel the need to tell this story because I feel like if we can avoid these type of things or even be conscious of these type of things happening, that we can avoid people going down this dark path, lonely journey, right? And I think it's very detrimental that people in society be conscious of this. If nothing more, to be aware of which streets to go down and which streets to avoid, right? So with that one, we're gonna label this one the tale of the lonely child. So this story takes place in the United States on the East Coast part of the United States, right? In a city that many know, right, called Philadelphia, right? And this child grew up in West Philadelphia. So with that, I'm gonna have to knock on the door and take you inside the house, right? The occupants inside the house, the events that happen inside of the house, so you could get a picture in your mind of the psychological process that this individual has been through and the things that place indelible marks on this individual's mind and mold and shaped. And the reason why we should pay attention to this story and the details that is placed inside this story is because this person is no longer alive, right? But this person's spirit is, right? And sometimes when you have a spirit that feels a need to be vindicated or feels a need for justice, right? This spirit can cause a lot of havoc and a lot of mayhem in the spiritual realm, right? So with that being said, we're gonna start the tale. So we go in the house. There's three occupants in the house, right? There's a single mother, right? And there's a younger brother. And why they're important because the people that we're around also help mold and shape us as well as our environment. So we're gonna get a little brief biography on the other individuals as well. So the story starts out with the mother. The mother, the biggest influence in the mother was her father's side, right? And the father comes from a black, prestigious family filled with doctors, a few lawyers, some college teachers, as well as a famous R&B entertainer in that damn time, right? Now, and of course, this was many decades ago, right? But I'm quite sure if you grew up in an urban environment, whether you heard your parents or your grandparents, or just sometimes scrolling on social media, this artist, his group, and the songs come about. One of the most famous songs or iconic songs that he had that was like really, really big. And this person wasn't just no ordinary artist. At one time, he was considered part of the soul of Philadelphia music wise, right? And this artist's name was Harold Melvin. And his group was called the Blue Notes. And you might know him from the song, If You Don't Know Me By Now, You Will Never, Never Know Me. He's was in that group, right? Well, it was actually his group. So now dealing with the psychosis of the mother, right? The mother was standing citizen in society, worked hard, worked so hard that she obtained 2 houses, right? So the child that we're speaking of, or this lonely child, he grew up in a house where he was conscious that his mother was the owner of the house, okay? And that's very important in the sense of developing self-worth, especially in a child, right? Unfortunately, though, like most people in an urban environment and dealing with the everyday stress that society places on people, especially people in an urban environment, particular African Americans, she was no different in that sense, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we lose the battle. So her losing of the battle was a result of her messing with alcohol and over abusing her children in the sense of beatings, right? So now to give you a little brief look on the younger brother starts showing signs of a genius very young as a child, very young, right? And even as a child had a predetermined ideal that he wanted to be a doctor. So now the lonely child, his genius wouldn't kick in or be cultivated until years later. So, and the mother was highly intelligent. So even though he was the firstborn, he always felt like in the middle, in that center lane. He didn't show signs of genius, so his high intellect wasn't seen at the time. But he did have a unique characteristic trait. This child had an uncanny ability to see really deep, even as a small child. So much so, it was acknowledged by the mother. The mother used to always make reference to that and say that he had a heavy head, meaning heavy mind. So, here's where this mentality starts to develop, and it actually developed through pain. So this is definitely a story of pain. So as the mother would beat the child, one of her favorite instruments to use was a extension cord. So on one of these beatings, the child is whipped extremely, sent to his room on punishment. No TV, no radio, just him in a room. And it was at that pinnacle moment, something very great happened to that child out of that pain. The child made a wish. And wishes are very powerful, but they're most powerful is when a child makes a wish, right? Prayer is linked to wishes because that's all prayer is. Prayer is just another term for a wish, right? And when you study culture, right? Like prime example, we study the Jews, Judaism, right? They say that the most powerful prayer is a prayer of a child. Said a child prayer can save a whole village, right? So this child, after he got done crying, wiping his tears, he made a wish. And that wish was, he wished that his life wasn't his life. He wished that his family wasn't his family. He wished to be somebody totally different. And in this state, the doors of imagination flew off his hinges. And as he laid in his bed and in a meditative state, the very walls in his room began to bend, sort of like that movie, Doctor Strange, right? The walls started bending and the room transformed into a different room. And in that room was very detailed, produced from a child's mind though, but very detailed. And the child was transformed into a grown man, not any man, but a white man. And this white man was on his deathbed and surrounded by the bedside was his wife and his children. And of course, they were crying because the man was dying. That vision affected the child very greatly. So when he comes out of that world, the child was no longer the same. He had a sense of maturity about himself because that man now resided and lived in his head. And what made the child bond more with that man or that image and that scene in his head was the information that came from that man in his head. And he starts seeing things and he starts understanding things partly that a normal child shouldn't have been able to understand. And the peculiar thing about this situation here was the child couldn't tell nobody. And see, that's one of the bad things about when you walk into the world of imagination is you have to be grounded, and how you're grounded is the people around you keep you grounded. Unfortunately for this child didn't have the privilege of doing that because the child was terrified of telling anybody because the child didn't want to be labeled as crazy or something implying something wrong with his mental. So he kept it to himself. But mind you, I said the doors of imagination was blown off his hinges. So now the child is living in two worlds. So when the child now leaves his house, the child doesn't see things like how normal people see things. There's a distance now from reality and imagination. So little acts like going to the store at nighttime became an adventure in the ghetto. The child, the block that the child lived on was a good block. But a portion of the block before the child left the block, one of the street lights was out. So the child had to walk by this scary dark alley. And nine times out of 10, the child would just run by. And then the child would turn the corner, and there goes the avenue. Now, a couple blocks around the corner was a movie theater. And at nighttime, it was lit up. And the child loved movies. So the child would look and see the latest movies that were showing at the theater. But what intrigued the child more than anything was the people that hung out in front of the movie theater. And there were people of the street life. And the child just was like in all the combination of the movie theater, the lights, the posters of the movies, the stars, and then looking at the street stars, the women, how they carried themselves, how they dressed, the men, their cars, and things of that nature. The child was in awe. And he would go to the store, come back, see the scenery, and then go back in his room. And he would fantasize. And he would fantasize about that life. So eventually, the child couldn't take the beatings no more. So around 14, the child left the house. Unfortunate, the child went into a more dangerous environment. But the child had a special gift, and that was he had a whole world by that time constructed of people living inside his head that would guide him, show him things. So the child was always seen as being lucky when it came to things, nature and things that happening in the streets, right? But unfortunately, the child had to walk a very, 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 very dark journey. So with that, becoming a young man, became a juvenile delinquent, and brushed with the life of crime. But his world didn't make a drastic change until the mother decided to move to California, LA. Now, this is prior to the child leaving the mother's house. So the child at this time was around 11, 12 years old. So they moved to California. The mother had some type of wild fantasy pipe dream of becoming an actress. So the first place they landed in California was not LA, was Pomona, California. And they lived in an apartment complex. It was a beautiful apartment complex. It was called the Teepees, right? Because the outside architectural structure mimicked an Indian teepee. So there, it was a different world. The people seemed strange. They talked, their vernacular was strange, their slang. It was just like being in a different world to him, right? But he eventually found a couple of friends, right? So, introduce you to the friends. The friends, one name was Anwar. He was mixed child. He was half white, half black. And he had this beautiful, beautiful character. He didn't use cuss words. He spoke very, very proper. And his family were vegans, so he didn't eat meat. But this child's best friend was a kid named Al. And Al wasn't original, him and his family wasn't original inhabitants of California. They actually had migrated from Detroit, right? So Al was a safe way, at least the mother thought, for her child to play with. Al basically stayed in the house a lot. Everybody in the apartment complex loved it. Al, he was a dark skinned child because this child, the loner, he was dark skinned as well. So him and Al, they like really, really bonded. So the mother felt safe letting her child play with Al, right? Al had two parents, a mother and a father. The father had a government job, and the mother had a nice job. So they always had, right? So Al had the latest video games on the TV. So Al, Anwar, and the Lonely Child, they would hang at Al's house. Now Al had an older brother who didn't live in the house, right? And this older brother was a notorious gang member. Like, he was a killer. He belonged part of the gang called the Crips, right? And the Lonely Child rarely seen the brother. The brother wasn't much talkative. He was a very dangerous individual. At this point, he was around 23, 24, right? So a lot of times, the loner would hang in the house with Al and Anwar by themselves while their parents was at work, especially like in the summertime. So a chain of event would forever, ever leave a mark on the loner's consciousness. They were playing video games like any other normal day, and the brother came in the house. And the mother still kept the brother's room when he used to live with them untouched. And he ran to the back of the room. Now, the brother had a best friend named Do Dirty, and they shared the apartment together. It was like a gang apartment. So the brother Al worshipped his brother. He wanted to be just like his brother, but his brother was a killer and a gangbanger. And the brother came in and he said, "What's up, cuz?" And this other brother just said some hard shit and just went in the back room. Al didn't think nothing of it, got back to playing the video game. Say 5 or 10 minutes later, another knock at the door. Al goes and open the door, let the person in. It's Do Dirty. Do Dirty has on a pair of Dickies, some Chuck Taylors on, and a wife beater, tank top t-shirt. But he was holding his stomach, and you could see blood just forming at his stomach. And he said, "Cuz, where your brother at?" And Al said he in the room, in the back. Think nothing of it, get back and start playing video games. The next thing, we hear a commotion in the back room and screaming. And we hear, "Cuz, get the fuck out." We look. Now the brother name was Crazy D. He had a 45 caliber to that man's head, ushering him out the house. When I tell you, the loner never seen nothing like that in his life. Anwar let out the proper, "Oh my God," right? But that formed and that changed. It changed the loner a lot. Seeing an act of violence like that, it blew his mind. So maybe a couple weeks after it, Al's parents actually liked it the loner because he was a good kid. Good kid. They invited him over for dinner. I still remember the menu. Macaroni and cheese, spare ribs, potato salad, all the upper echelons of soul food, black etiquettes, and pardon me, not etiquettes, but cuisine. Pardon me, wrong choice of words. But anyway, so we're at the house, and the mother was actually drinking liquor, and Al, he was a very manipulative child, very intelligent. He convinced the loner because the mother wouldn't let Al play outside. That's why she bought him all the games and all the latest games. And he could have friends over all day long. So he convinced the loner, ask my mom, can we go outside? So the loner went, Miss Such and Such, can me and Al go outside and play? And it was nighttime. And the lady just started crying. And Al just shook his head and put his head down because he was embarrassed. And the lady said, no, they can't get another one of my babies. The loner's looking like, the hell's going on? She goes and grabs photo album book. And she grabs the loner. She says, look at this. And she flicks through the pages. It's Crazy D. But he's a normal kid in these pictures. I mean, he played sports. He was all-star. Baseball. The kid had trophies. And she told the story how they migrated from Detroit and moved to Pomona, California. And they lived in an area called Centertown. And they was infested, gang infested. The Crip gang was called Trey 57, Gangster Crips. And he was just a rather good kid, good academically, sports, all-American kid. And as he was walking down the street every day, he would walk by this group of gangbangers. And they would ask him every day, cuz, what set you from? And he didn't know what they were talking about. Most of the time, he would just give him a puzzled look and just walk by. Well, one unfortunate day, they blocked his motion. He had the wrong colors on, probably had red or something on. And they was like, cuz, who set you from? And of course, he tried to do the same routine, but this time one of them crept up behind him and hit him in the head with a baseball bat. Unfortunately, he was in a coma for a couple weeks. He came out. When he came out, he was never the same. He joined the gang, hence the story of Crazy D. Now, why we bring this up is because this is a pinnacle point in the learner's life. This is when he makes the transformation. Because Al, though he wasn't a gangbanger, he was a tainted child. And he used to, when he did get free, he used to like to do little mischiefs, acts of mischiefs, fights, thing of that nature. And he grabbed the lonely child right along with him. And that opened up a whole door of juvenile incarceration and everything else. But remember, I told you, this child existed in two worlds. Looking through the child's eye, the child never felt like the child belonged on earth. So even when a child interacts with people, what people think is normal, the child mind is coming from a distant place. Give you a prime example, because I can relate. A couple nights ago, I'm in the bed with my woman, right? And she says, "Won't you hear this song?" She used to MC back in the day, and she loved beats, right? "Won't you listen to this song?" But she is an East Coast female, so she only really like East Coast artists, New York, Jersey, Philadelphia, right? So she doesn't really listen to down south or West Coast, right? Me, in that aspect, I got more range because I lived in West Coast, I lived down south, and I'm from the East Coast, so I listen to everything, right? So I'm always ridiculing her on her music selection or how limited it is when it comes to rap music, because she has a vast music collection. Her music catalog would put mine to shame, right? but it's just remotely in that area in that specific genre of music. So she knowing how I am, and it just happens to be a New York artist. Nothing against New York artists, love New York artists, right? But I do it so she can try to force her to expand musically in that genre of music. So anyway, she goes about playing the song on her phone and she turns the volume down so you really can't hear the artist, but you can hear the beat. And I wanted to hear the whole artist, right? So I tell her, because I realized my era, me constantly getting on her, ridiculing her about her selection of music that she loves, right? And she even lived in New York. So I realized that, so I used it as an opportunity to let her go deeper in my mind and see where I'm coming from. So I explained to her the process of how I determine a song or how I perceive music. And it's not normal in this aspect. And I told her I wanted to hear the artist because you want me to pay attention to the beat, right? So I basically see things at all times in three or more tiers. So one, I'm I'm reading the beat, I'm analyzing the beat, right? The tempo of it, everything, right? And then I'm analyzing the artist on the artist interaction of how the artist rides the beat, because that shows me the effect that the beat have, right, from that artist's perspective. And mind you, at the same time, I transfer my mentality to a mentality of a New York person. So now I'm getting a greater understanding of the beat on another level. And then the third tier comes from her. I get a greater understanding of her from studying those two tiers. So I don't see things, and when I interact with people, I don't care who you are, my family, and I'm interacting from you from multiple faces. My first face is the dialogue that comes from it, and the thought processes going on are like light years away. So I can understand this lonely child interaction with dealing with the world, right? Now, why I call this individual the lonely child, and why I say this lonely child died from loneliness, because it puts you in a space where no one can ever fully understand you. Because when people merge with people and become part of a collective, they 9 times out of 10, they think the same. They see the world the same, right? So a loner, like this loner child, doesn't see the world like how everybody else see the world. And because this loner child is a Virgo, that makes it even more worse, because Virgos have analytical minds and they dissect everything. So imagine this child, now that we know, right? This child was actually supposed to be a psychiatrist, has 7, 8 psychiatrists in his family. But at that time, no one paid attention to the lonely child. Plus, you got to take in consideration the time, the social atmosphere. Like, prime example, this is a dark skinned child. During the time period that I'm speaking of, dark skin wasn't seen in good light in the black community. Light skin or brown skin, because we still had the residue of slavery was still running strong, right? So a lot of things was rejected. So as we go on, this lonely child start developing more and more in that other dimension that was brung about in that room. And the lonely child never shared nothing with nobody. The lonely child just kept from constructing one room to constructing worlds, literally. It wasn't until this lonely child was able to become older and read a lot and study a lot that this child was able to find refuge. And this child found refuge, believe it or not, in philosophy and occultism. Because when you study philosophy, you understand philosophy has no limitation. Philosophy has the ultimate freedom because you could put a philosophical thinking on anything. Anything becomes a metaphor. Philosophy is universal. It takes you outside of the box. So that child found safety there. Not only that, the child was able to breathe there. Once that child cultivated philosophical thinking. And then the occult was able to explain, when you go through that journey, the things that happen to you. Like, prime example, the child never knew that the child was an empath until the child starts studying occult. So through occult, the child was able to learn what the child was. Through philosophy, the child was able to grow and expand. So now why I say everybody should be conscious, because in the society that we live in, too many people don't pay attention to the children, which is insane because children are the future, and our future literally comes into fruition and develops through children's minds. So if you could program a child while they're young, you're actually writing the future, because the child's conscious, and more importantly, their subconscious, is actually the atoms that bring about the future reality. So, prime example, you take a lot of black men in an urban environment, mass incarceration, dying on the street, right? A lot of them are fathers, but how active are they in the children's lives? There's a correlation there between massive death and them not being in their children's lives. If the children's minds are the future and you're not relevant in their mind, you're not in the future. Because what we weren't taught, that this plane is many planes that exist above it that dictate and determine and trickle down to the base level that we live in the urban environment. And there are certain rules, ancient rules and ancient systems that teach one how to reach those top tiers, right? There are books, right? Like a very old book called Flatland, right? That fully breaks down the level existence of these tiers. And these tiers are levels of consciousness. But if you don't know, or what about the Jewish system, Kabbalah? Some call it Kabbalah, some call it Kabbalah, where you see the Sephiroth in the tree of life with Kether up top, Bina, Kukma on the side, Makuf, the kingdom at the bottom, and the processes that it takes to get to these different levels of consciousness. And in fact, Sephiroths are worlds, and each world had 5 different tiers to it. We're not taught these things. The problem is, if we're not fully paying attention to the children's minds, which are gardens, and we're not planting the right seeds, we're not tending the gardens, that's how crazy stuff grow in our future. And this right here is detrimental to the evolution of mankind, because one child can spark the thought that can ignite millions of imaginations and usher humanity on a road of evolution light years ahead. Or one child can spark the thought that can cause civilizations to fall. So it's a very serious thing. Monitor and being over top of children. And sometimes it's not the normal stuff that happens in society or the normal, oh, if I keep my child away from this, my child will be safe. If I keep my child away or put parenting locks on phones and TVs and accounts and all of that. But what about school? What about when they leave your house? All right, I'm a homeschool them. They won't never leave the house. Okay, but what good is that if you don't interact with the child outside of that? You give them an iPad, you give them a telephone, you're on your telephone. The mind is something that needs to be guarded with a steel glass gate in front of it. And it's just that important. Right now, especially in an urban environment, people think a good parent is keeping your child clean, dressed in the latest fashion, and just a little restriction about don't do this, don't do that. They never cultivate the children's minds. They never cultivate their children's minds. In Judaism, they teach that one should teach a child according to his ways. So what that basically means is one first has to analyze and study a child to see what direction, and that's where it comes in. You have to be a wise parent. You have to be a well-learned parent because you have to have the ability to know human nature in all the different forms that it shows itself in. So you might look at a child and be like, wow, this child might fit this fundamental course of learning because foundationally it's three of them, right? A child can learn the bottom tier, tactile, they learn with their hands. Tier above that is audio. You can tell a child something and they can follow instructions to the T. A tactile child, physical child, you have to physically show them and might even have to repeat the process. But a lot of people may think that, or they get labeled as being dumb children, right? Then the next order, you tell them something verbally, they automatically be like, okay, they're smart children, right? And then the highest level of intelligence is a person that can learn visually, right? But here's the grave mistake that society has made. They write the child off. This textile got to learn physically, right? But here's the kicker, right? I actually started out as the bottom tier. Then I grew, evolved to audit. Then I grew to visual. So this is where the lonely child comes back in. Because lonely childs are ignored by society. Because they're not considered special children. And why this is so detrimental, suppose you have a child that slipped through the cracks, no one paid attention to, evolved into something else, acquired knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in different dimensions, And now everybody want to know. Now everybody want connections. When the child is dead, when the child is dead, luckily, the lonely child that I speak of was in good nature. Such good nature that his very first name, the first four letters spell love. So the child was always intrigued with love. But the child received so much hate. It's a wild process, a very wild process. Now people be like, share, teach, help, be kind. Now the child is a man and seen so much in human nature and people and seen how ugly the world is. See how much people really care about other people. And now the days and times that we living in, that's almost non-existent. Most people, I take myself prime example, and if you haven't caught on, I'm the lonely child. Most people, when they acquire, they want me to reveal secrets. Most people want stuff they ain't earned. Most people want information from me they did not earn. They didn't go on them night trips. They didn't read 10, 15 hours straight. But they want the secrets. And they'll weave a vicious web. Like prime example, situation I'm in right now. Lost my job. And it's systems that know that. So now here come the manipulation. I go on my algorithm, people popping up. Oh, you're gonna be rich. Because I'm making videos now. They like, now, yeah, we put them in that position. This motherfucker gonna tell everything. And I already told you, even when I interact, my mind is at a distant place. I got so many faces in different dimensions, and they're all my advisors that spin around my crown like the motherfucking 12 cranial nerves. And I just be like, and now they like, oh, you see stuff that other people don't see. And yeah. Oh, you be seeing through, yeah. Because my advisors, the collective, be telling me. And the thing be so deep because I'm like, all right, so now why am I doing it? Why am I putting this stuff out now, right? I'm going to be honest with you. I've been ostracized. I've been ghosted out. I've been alienated. My city, family, everything. I'm not normal. So when I got people studying me, studying my online presence and all that, and the stuff that I be doing, y'all don't know why I be doing it. I just be collecting information. I be studying. Years of incarceration kept away from women. So I study women. I study people in general, but I'm fascinated with studying women. I've been around a lot of men. I was putting my hand in men's head and putting them on puppet strings at a young age in my teens. I study women, but I study people in general. And the reason why I study people in general because in ancient times, nobles, royals, important people, right? This before mail, internet, all that, when they used to have to travel by horse, take days to get to destinations. And they would have to send messages. One king might send a message to another king, whatever the scenario, right? They would use scrolls and they would seal the scrolls with wax. Before the wax fully hardens, they would have rings and they would put the sigil, the marking of the ring in the wax, and that's how they knew it came from that official person. Well, I see people like that. The Bible say that Adam was fashioned from mud, clay. I see people as clay beings, and they marker is from something royal, is from God. But where does God exist? They say God is everywhere. God is everywhere. So if God is everywhere, then God exists inside of people as well. Now, it may be in degrees. Some people might just got a little God in them. Some people might got a lot of God in them, right? But yet and still, when I interact and I deal with people, and while I be peeping stuff in the streets, we call it peeping game. I'll be just zoned in. I don't care about your words. I don't need to be hyped up. I don't care. I'm doing what I'm doing now because I'm done playing with this world. I'm like, all right, now I mask off, let y'all see my real face. That's what's really going on. You think I'm doing it because I'm hurt and I need some bread? Do I care about money? Yeah, that'd be super delusional not to. But at the same time, that's not the motivation. That's not where it's coming from. It's coming from, I'm tired of people playing in my face. Not just regular people in the ghetto. I'm talking about people up top. And I'm like, really not that smart. Trying to manipulate me. I'm like, I don't care about none of that. And I know for a fact that's a wicked world. And even the people that you think is good, they not good by default. Because they support a system that they know is flawed. But had the nerve to look for flaws in other people. That's crazy as hell. So all them years as a little kid, I thought I was crazy. Not knowing I was just showing the traits, the psychological traits and the ramifications of a child that was neglected. And now when I come back down off of my spaceship and interact with people on Earth, I'll be like, man, people crazy as shit. People is like really, really crazy. Like, I'll give you a prime example, right? I've been reaching out to people, right? Not a lot, because I don't know a lot, and I'm a loner. I don't have no friends. I rarely communicate with my family. And I've been like this for years. But what people don't know, so I come back and I try to reconnect. But I ain't reconnect to ask nobody for nothing. But at the same time, need the help. People want to know that I evolved to the point that I actually create systems. I create systems. Like people want to know I created a system for females. It's called Sophia Suon. The last word is a play of words, right? And it's a complex system. It has its own text generated. In fact, I'm in the process of finishing one now that's a massive text. And it's a system made for women, can only be ran by women, and it's a revolutionary system because it's a system designed to cause a shift on the planet and put females fully in power. I can't even get nobody to help me with it. I mean, my chick, she tried to help me with it, but our resources is limited. And this shit is so crazy, I want to give it away for free. I ain't want shit from it. That's the crazy part. I developed a tarot card system, very complex, 64 cards, multiple tiers, have philosophy text behind it, and everything. So while I'm looking at people trying to play games, trying to humble me, trying to mind fuck me, I'm still doing what I'm doing. The video is just started. Motherfucker, for damn near a year and a half, I've been constructing the text. I got occult college course level schools that I developed that blend into virtual reality. I don't really create shit that's worth millions and millions of dollars. And I'm just trying to give it the fuck away. I ain't even trying to get paid off of it. Right now, as I talk right now, I got a system for content creators where I could hire 100 people if we connect in the same room, and all I gotta do is touch everybody's phone. All we gotta do is just link up on the phone, send massive work your way. Constant content create. I've been putting up them videos. Them videos ain't shit. Them little AI videos with them little tad bits of jewels, that's fucking gold dust. That's not even nuggets. But I don't have the know-how on certain levels, technology to do certain shit. I could write movies and shit. Like I could write movies and shit. Like that shit is easy to me. I be mad because when I be putting my text in the fucking AI videos, it be like it's too long. I got thousands of pages of work done. And I can't even get this shit away. Motherfuckers keep calling my psychic line online, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Jones want to keep flashing their cards on me. I hit one joint up in a DM, email, like, yo, can we collab? Yo, I got a system, a tarot card system that I think you... No response. People is fucking crazy, yo. I don't hit family members up like, yo, I can get you rich. And what I find, me coming from a distant place, everybody already got their teams, and everybody is already, when it comes to me, playing the game. But if they knew how hard it was for me to exist, even in this level of existence, if you knew how hard, the real me, the inner me, want to forever just leave the world and live in that world that I constructed as a child. Because I know once the soul leave the body, that's where my soul is going. So at this point, for the last 10 years, I really don't want to eat. If I had $50 million, I'm gonna be honest with you. I will buy a fucking house. I would make it state of the art. It would be a smart house. I would have no physical communication contact with outside world. I would have my food sent in. I would have my clothes sent in. No one will really ever see me. And I would have a fucking social media room. And I would literally blend my fucking soul and put my soul all on the internet. And I would just give information straight from the source. Because it's a major part of me that I don't even like humans for real. I don't like humans. I feel like they're selfish. I feel like they're hateful. I feel like they're manipulative. I feel like they're conniving. I feel like you can't even trust them. They're not trustworthy people. Even the scriptures teaches that humans are not trustworthy. You can help them out. You can do shit for them. They'll turn you, they'll backstab you, all of that. Humans are not trustworthy. I'm just not a coward, so I'm not into killing myself. I'm not into killing myself. If I was, I would like to leave the earth like a fucking Tibetan monk. I would like to just leave the earth in a meditative period and just meditate and just fade into the cosmos. That be my vibe. I see so much. You have so much has been revealed to me. You have no idea. And now that I'm getting older, the door is shut in the sense of what I have to give to the world. The world is gonna lose out real big when I die. If people knew what I know, they would have me plugged straight in and have me, yo, had that motherfucker talking 24 hours a day, record that shit, boom. And guess what? It's a lot of us out. It's a lot of us out here like that. It's a lot of us. It's a lot of us. And what we have, the world actually need. No, I'm not no fucking egomaniac. No, I'm not on some bullshit. You should all worship me and bow down to the demigod. I'm not on none of that bullshit. I'm an energy being. I like people with good energy. I'm an energy being. That's all they really come down to. I take cleanliness and good vibes over anything. That's what I'm into. That's what I want to see the world become. Just good vibes. And lately I've been like real heavy on this AI stuff. And the reason why I've been real heavy on this AI, right, is because I believe the world that we live in now is fake. Meaning people have become so fucking fake, right? And people are masters now of casting illusions. Because human beings are starting to tap back into that magical creation, that magical part of their essence, right? But they're using it wrong. So you got a lot of people that they're projecting worth off of, and I'm not, this not no poor talk. This not no poor talk. But see, it's a difference. You got two different type of people. Motherfucker want millions and millions of dollars. Both want millions and millions of dollars, but the difference is what they would do with it. That's the difference, right? But when you actually, my mentality is this world is so fucking fake in this aspect, based off of cars, clothes, pump faking on social media, right? That with the AI system, let's see what you can fucking create. See, because the AI can only pull out what's already inside of you. Your job is to plant seeds on AI. AI is going to expose the charade that's been going on, and a lot of people really don't got shit in them because they already invested in the fake world. They don't got nothing in them. They can't do nothing. They don't got nothing in them. And how you know? Everything sound the same. You see it with the music, the dress, everything sound the same. That's your limitation. That's your limitation in creation. And creation and imagination, that's the realm that God and angels dwell in. People are so far removed and so far out of touch, and we're not talking religion, we talking something deeper. People are so far out of touch with the source that is fucking crazy, because they don't prostitute it, their God-given gifts, to the point now it ain't worth shit. That's why a female see a dude, he'll have everything perfect, but after a year or two, you feel like you made a grave fucking mistake, because you realize that person don't got no substance in them. You'll catch a joint as a baddie, down to the T. And then when you finally get her and everything, you be what? You be like, damn, this joint an airhead. And you be wondering why so many people be cheating. And you be why? Because there's no substance in you. So my thing is, I don't really like. So if a motherfucker thinking that I could be manipulated on some gopher shit, you keep putting out this content, boom, 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 boom. So, and there wasn't no lug at tarot card readers. I love tarot card readers. So please don't get offended. But it's fakes everywhere, right? My thing is, this world is so fucking fake that it's even contaminating some real motherfuckers. So when people be like, oh, you've been vindicated off of this, and I'm not calling you fake, but what I'm saying is, I intentionally am doing this. Not my situation and all that. I'm intentionally doing it. Now, did the loss of the job help me out? Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. To me, that was a blessing because I got now more time to do what I actually, my soul wants to do. See, when I was at the job, I was surrounded by people, they were doing some fuck shit to me because they had knowledge and they was using technology they had that I wasn't aware of. And it was coming out on my interaction on certain levels when I get on social media and things of that nature. And a lot of it stem from jealousy, hate, and all that. But I just don't pinpoint just them out because, or just blame them because the whole world is becoming that. The whole world is becoming, more and more we go into is becoming fake. Motherfuckers is like really fake. Like prime example, in an urban environment, as of the last decade, we got a lot of homeless people on the street. In the hood, we got homeless people with no place to go, and not almost drug addicts. There's a lot of good people, youth, walking around backpacking it with no fucking place to go, but all these fucking abandoned houses. And we live in a superpower nation. How is that? That don't make no sense. But it's no housing, but you got all these abandoned houses. In any metropolitan urban environment all across America, you got mad abandoned houses, abandoned buildings, but you got homeless people. And you can't be like it can't be done because if not, I tell you, go study Switzerland. Switzerland got rid of their whole homeless situation. In fact, I had stuff generated on my AI where I took their system, modified it for major cities. New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Delaware, and California. And it works. We got the receipts. So, like I said before, a lot of this anti-AI shit, right, is really by people they don't got nothing inside of them, so they can't reap the harvest. Cause you gotta plant the seeds. So if you're not deep, your shit ain't gonna come off deep. Basically, you lay the foundation. And as it goes to construction, you interact and you control the destiny of that work. So it's 50% yours, 50%, but you gotta have something. If you don't have nothing, but right now I have so much work and this shit. My shit. See, another thing about my mind, my shit don't never stop. I used to have, when I was younger, real bad bouts of insomnia. And in my family, not only does genius, we got a lot of black geniuses, but we also got a few cases of schizophrenia. And as in my youth, I showed signs of schizophrenia and major insomnia. And it wasn't until I started studying and I figured out, not going to a psychiatrist, not by self-medicate myself, I found out the key to it was meditation. And once I became a heavy meditator, all that stuff went away. And it hasn't occurred in decades. So I say this to say, I'm about change. And if people think the change come about because of my conditions or what they think they know about me, they're going to be sadly mistaken. And a lot of people is going to lose out because, I'm like this song with the guy, he doing life now in Philly, but he used to be a Philly rapper. He winded up doing some crazy, I think like he killed a black woman or some black police officer, but the boy Steady B. I still like to listen to the song once in a while, but he got a song called Use Me Before I Let Go. And it's a deep song, especially if you decode it. And he start off, he'd be like an MC, and I'm here to explain why I do it. You can't stop this flame. Anytime that you want it, I'm your giver. And you could bet money that I'll deliver. The satisfaction is guaranteed. You want to break from me, please? You need the style I'm explaining. You want it, you're paying. Listen to every word that I'm saying. Keep using me until I'm all gone like a sponge, soaking up this song. I won't complain. Just say my name. Keep me motivated. Never refrain from rocking your bottom. Yes, I got them. Lyrics so deaf, I think you should bottle them. This is different, that you know, and I think you better use me before I let go. And that's my declaration to the world, man. I put out like 10% of my mental out over the last 6 years. My shit is so heavy, and this not no bragging shit. I get tired of holding my own shit. That's another reason why I'm opening up the floodgates. And if you think that somebody's making me do this, some spirit or something like that, you sadly fucking mistaken. You sadly mistaken. I'm doing it because now over the years, I'm getting older. I feel like my journey about to go somewhere else on another outside of the physical plane. And before I leave, I'm leaving my testimony. So I prefer to do it through art, artistically. But if I got to come on this motherfucker every day and talk just like this, then so be it. Because one thing we not gonna do, that smear campaign, motherfuckers that knew me past life. I got motherfuckers playing chess with me, and they only knew me for a couple years. I got some motherfuckers playing chess with me that for real, the last time we really spent days upon days together was in 1988 and 87. And still trying to box a nigga in that small ass world that they live in. I'm like, nigga, I'm trying to upgrade your shit. You don't even know me. I got family members that don't even know me. But I got these entities even going at them, trying to utilize them like they got it in. How? When you don't even know me. I got motherfuckers trying to connect with me off of, if you go and I got family members, right? Like prime example, love them. But my dad, I used to go to my dad's house in the summertime. I go to his house in the summertime. I might stay with them for like a month. Then come back from Cali, 87, 88, I was caged. Come out, few months, gone. They don't even know me. But they think they know me. And I ain't saying this in no shape or fashion to get on them or cast them in a bad light. But reality is reality. I'm like, y'all don't know me. And then I got people in society that swear that they know me. They don't know me. So of course, if you orchestrate some vicious ass plan, motherfuckers talking about, oh, you keep escaping death traps and all that. Yeah, because it's based off of you knowing me. And how you gonna know me? I'm in the game where as though motherfuckers just trying to trap my soul. But I got so much range. This is why religious people, listen, I don't have religious people go ham at me. Of all different religions, try to lock me in they shit. Based off of their own phobias and fears that got them locked in they shit. And they be going fucking ham. I mean, like, this shit is so fucking wild, man. I got people that support the system, and I ain't anti-system. I feel like we got a good system. I feel like it need to be modified. It need to be changed. It need to be modified some in order for it to continue to exist. And I think that that's the closest thing that you can actually get to human nature. See, the thing is, the evolution of the human race, right? And certain things that were needed are no longer needed. And then certain things in the past are needed now because we're taught that history repeats itself. So history is actually a cipher, but you got to understand the points on the cipher and know what points that are supposed to be utilized. Like, prime example, you see a lot of people now, they're not really religious because religion is an institution and structure, right? But that humanity, soul, their minds and their spirits have become too big for certain structures. This is not no anti-religion. Love religion, love religious people, right? But the constructs that the people that were controlling them religions, in some cases for hundreds and hundreds of years, they don't want to remove those markers and they got to remove. In some cases, we got to go further back past these religious institutions. Before, religion was mythology. And why I'm bringing that up with the whole modifying, changing, we need to adapt. We need to go back and get something from mythology. Mythology, right, in its core essence, right, were indigenous people around a fire of all ages, and the elders would tell a story, right? They'd tell a story. They would tell this story for years. But here's the thing. Each time they told the story, it would slightly change. The story would slightly change. The change wasn't a lie. The change was showing the journey of evolution and moving towards the future. It was changing. That's the original program before religion. So it's a lot of information that needs to be taught to the public at large. But certain people, even certain people at top, certain motherfuckers are scary as shit. They scared of change. And if you know something was wrong, and then a lot of people was cowards, top to bottom. You know something was wrong. You know injustice was done wrong. Whether it was a cultural, social, or system thing, and you know a lot of people got fucking scarred off of that. And a lot of people took journeys and got them scars and them bumps and crazy. They penalize them for their scars. They penalize them for certain shit when you know the truth is coming out and shit was organized, shit had people against motherfuckers. You know that, and you don't stand a fight, then you're a fucking coward and you just as bad as them in my book. That's just how I feel. You just as bad as them. Like on some real way. And I want them type of people to stay far the fuck away from me. Now, if I was to come back on an earthly plane, social media wise, you know what I would actually do? And I know it sounds like it's a fad, but I ain't like them. I would actually do a podcast show. I would do a podcast show. And I would have people of all different walks of life on my podcast show. And we're not promoting nobody political aims, their agendas. It's just, I would call it mask the fuck off. Where motherfuckers talk real conversation. Like you couldn't even get on my fucking show if you had a fucking mask on. Get the fuck off. Because the youth need to hear that real shit. Shit ain't real no more. Everything's synthetic. Everything fake. Now you might be like, oh, that's coming from a guy that really messes with AI. But before AI, I was AI. Before AI, I was already AI. I was already a writer before AI. I got a book right now that's free. You can go ahead and download it on Kindle and all that shit. It's free on Amazon. And I always point that out as a testimony if people think I'm pump faking on the intellect. How I talk and the shit that be going on upstairs, light years away. I sit down with a pencil and paper and get to constructing, light years different. So that's the story of the lonely boy, man. And that this loneliness comes in degrees, man. And I would never fully open up to anybody that's in my midst as long as you fake. I don't give a fuck who you is. Friends, family, blood, I don't give a fuck. And I could peek fake shit. If I catch 1 ounce of you being fake, red flags go off here, my mental security system kick in, and I be like this, everything. Now I'm Virgo mind on you. I'm breaking down everything. I'm analytical after we talk, after we politic, whatever. I'm dissecting shit. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, no. And a lot of people don't understand. That's why I be fading off of people. They be like, I'll be busted up in like this ever since I was a juvenile. I'll chop it up with you, boom, 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 and then the next you know, I just fade off you. And people be scratching their head, and I won't tell you why I'm fading off of you. Once I zone your shit and see you being fake with me, my mind, I'm like, fuck out of here. Like on some real rap. I'm like, hell, I know, I ain't doing nothing. That's how I move. Now, have I paid the penalty for that? Yeah, because outside, I don't got nobody in this world. I don't got nobody in this world. I deal with people in degrees. I got my woman. I don't got nobody though. Outside, I don't have nobody in this world. And in some aspects, I'm okay with that. Because I know me being like that, that's what protect what I got, and that's my worth, and that's what everybody over the last decade want from me. They want this. They want this. So I gotta protect this at all costs. And if I gotta fade off of you, like prime example, when I was at my job for 4 years going through all the shit that I was going through, even shit that I knew was making my character look fucked up and stained, and I was cool with it because even in the midst of all of that, I'm always dropping jewels. So if you're not smart enough to be like, yo, it's impossible for this guy to be dropping the information that he's dropping and be that, what, even if it looked like that, to be that. And then there's no physical evidence of none of that shit. I'm glad to lose people. I'm glad. Go ahead. I'm glad. You know what I mean? That's how you separate the wheat from the tare. I'm glad as shit. I'm like, yeah, cool. It reminds me of a Eminem song. Eminem got this song called I Am. And it's deep because, you know, I am is the phrase when Moses asked God what was God's name. God turned around and showed Moses his backside. It said, I am who I am. So Eminem got to join, I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? It's a deep ass fucking song. You know what I mean? So with that, I just feel I share a little bit, give a little testimony. Since people feel the need so bad to keep trying to take me to the celestial court. And with that, I'll leave you an old school joint by LL. LL say this joint there. He said, LL this, LL that. When I walk in a place, make me want to take my gun and shoot you in your motherfucking face. Don't you understand? You just a worker and your boss is my man. The boss I'm talking about is God. See you at the top, man. It's lonely up this joint. Peace out. I'm just a crook with a book. Bang.